Welcome to our Business Leaders Series. My name is Erica Oliver Jerem. I am the Acting Director of Framingham's Planning Community Development Division. We promote the city's economic development by supporting local businesses and organizations and creating opportunities for them to thrive. I am very happy to be here today with Janelle Codiani. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yep.
Executive Director of Amazing Things Arts Center, a nonprofit arts organization in downtown Framingham. We will talk today about the work that ATAC does, their experience in Framingham, and just get to know them better. Welcome, Janelle, and thank you for being here.
Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
It is my pleasure. So let's start. First, tell us a little about, is it ATAC or Amazing Things Arts Center?
Actually, ATEC.
ATEC, all right.
Go by ATEC these days.
All right. What do you want people to know?
What do I want people to know? A whole bunch of things. So we were founded back in 2005, and our first home was over on the north side of Framingham. And then we moved into the firehouse, the historic firehouse downtown, which is a city building, a municipal building. And we've been there since 2007. There's a theater inside. It seats 135. We have an incredible projector donated by Bose, a full PA sound system. We host theater, music events, open mics. We have 3 galleries. There's a gallery downstairs, one upstairs, along with our green room. And we also co-curate a gallery with Exhibit A Brewing downtown as well. So it's like the bare bones of what our facility is and what we can host there. I think the most important thing to know about the organization is that it's really built to provide a platform. Our mission is literally to provide a platform for visual and performing artists and provide access to the arts and create community through the arts for our surrounding communities. And so it's a community-focused, community-centered place to enjoy the arts, to grow in your own talent. Those are the most important bits, I think.
That's excellent. I like the word community. Obviously, I'm in planning and community development. That's important to us here. So, what do you enjoy about being in Framingham? What do you like about the location and why you're here?
So, I personally am an outsider to the region, to the area, and I feel like that. Obviously, that gives me a different perspective on the community overall. Geographically, I appreciate the location. I mean, we're right in the center of the region. We're close to the train. We're in a really vibrant, like physical community around us where there's lots of people walking around. There are lots of people stopping by. We have a ton of kids in our neighborhood who are often using our parking lot, and they come and visit us when we have things outside. So there's just like, for an area that is really surrounded by a lot of suburbs and a lot of rural land, we're in a really busy place, which is exciting. So I really like that. For us as well, I'm personally really interested in collaborations, especially for smaller organizations that have limited capacity. And the region has an incredible amount of really, really active nonprofits that are doing community-centered work, that are really interested and led by people who are deeply, deeply invested in the health of the community. So I really appreciate that. And I also really appreciate the region's other art organizations, between the Hopkinton Center for the Arts, TCAN, which isn't far away, the Discovery Museum even, there are lots of places providing cultural enrichment. And it really allows each individual place to focus on its area of expertise, and the place where it can make the biggest impact without attempting to be everything for everyone. And so I think that's a real asset.
Yes, it is. It's a pretty arts-rich place. I agree. And it is, I mean, we do think of Framingham as the heart of Metro West. So I think that that's very true. So talk to me a little about how the pandemic has impacted your organization and how you're working and recovering.
I'll definitely share how it's affected our organization, but I'd also really like to speak about how the pandemic has affected our industry, the arts industry, particularly the performing arts. Yeah. And the long-term impact that is going to have in the way that that influences our plans moving forward. So we shut down March 10th. We shut down a little tiny bit ahead of the state of emergency. And that was a huge decision. Obviously, it was very scary. And like most of us, we didn't expect to be closed for as long as we were. Being in Framingham, in a high-risk community, I forget what the designation was, red communities, even when other arts centers or performing arts spaces were allowed to open minimally, we weren't, which was appropriate for the danger that we were facing, but impacts the communities that can start later to recover. Obviously, we know that that didn't last as long as we had all hoped. And so we were all shut down again. So all told, we were completely shut down to audiences until this fall. It was, almost two full seasons. We did streaming. Our original plan for the fall of 2021, our original plan was to produce shows in the venue and stream them out. And it just very quickly became clear that it wasn't worth the risk to our staff, to the bands. We do a lot of jazz, and instruments that are brass instruments, people singing in space, were really small. And so we went right back to our immediate pandemic plan of having shows and events produced out of people's houses, out of studios that they had access to. Something that people may not think about is that a huge challenge of some kinds of bands is that they themselves can't be together. If you have a band that's more than 5 people, they couldn't gather for a big amount of that time. They couldn't get together to practice. And so it was really a challenge to figure out what to do, who to book, how to book. And so some of your viewers may know that we had everything donation only, and we just split the proceeds of that 50-50 with each artist. At the beginning of the pandemic, I was really panicked about how there wasn't, panicked might be a little strong of a word, but I was extremely nervous, as everybody was. And I was frustrated that there was there was no guidebook for anything like this. And I didn't know what to do. And I was lucky enough to have somebody kind of repeat that back to me with just a different tone. But there's no guidebook. And so, it's hard to do the wrong thing when there isn't a clear right thing. And we really embraced as much as possible the creative opportunity within that. So we ran a bunch of experiments. Some of them didn't work out in such a horrendous time. There were things that we learned that were worth keeping. And we also were extraordinarily supported by our community. We had an initial fundraiser that raised a lot of money for us and allowed us to make it through what we thought would be the scope of the closures. And we were able to access the Paycheck Protection Program, the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant, and that really allowed us to keep going. In addition, we cut expenses. We didn't have to let any of our staff go, which was extremely fortunate, and I feel really grateful for. But we kept the building closed, which reduce our expenses in a bunch of ways. And a lot of our expenses are connected to producing shows, so that reduced as well. The best thing that happened for us during that time, I would say, was our ability to connect so immediately with community members. We were approached by the Metro West Worker Center about their food distributions and if they could put together their bags and things like that in our hall. It was empty, and we, as an arts nonprofit, we enrich the community. I believe we are an essential function, but we're not a direct service nonprofit in the way that other places really were vital. So it felt good to be able to support them. The city reached out to us about using the site for testing, which we were able to do. And then some other groups also connected with us, like the Metro West Y. And so our space our location was used to access people who were experiencing quite a bit of hardship. You know, a lot of people in our communities are essential workers and things like that. And so that really opened up not only our friendships and collaborations with other groups, but I think that it really opened up the mindset of the organization. A great example of that is Out Metro West contacted us at some point during the pandemic and said, you know, they were looking for a new home. They really wanted to be in the downtown location. And was there any way that they could be tenants of ours?
Yeah.
And something like that took a really radical reimagining of how we use the space.
Yeah.
And we were really primed to just, you know, to take a note from our improv friends to be like, say yes first and figure out the details later. And that has, this is cilantro, by the way, my cat. So that has really accelerated our ability to connect with the community. And then this fall, we planned to open up to audiences. You know, we're selling tickets. We're doing our normal season, which is usually
COVID's over. Let's party.
over. Everything is fine now. You know?
Right.
We did implement a pretty standard policy of mask and vax, which is what most venues and most major ticket systems were using. And so we did that. We were open until the surge, at which point, you know, some of our shows were canceled because of COVID complications. You know, some of our bands that are touring had some of their tour shows canceled in places where there was higher cases. And then that impacts artists in a way where, you know, if they can't go to that middle spot, then they can't get to us, you know, and the way that artists book those routes, you know, usually there's some venue that's paying for lodging, and then there's, you know, it all has to work together. So we had some artists cancel on us for that. And then obviously during the surge, you know, we were just concerned about transmission. We didn't know how bad it was going to be. We didn't want to contribute to that for our community. And we have two full-time people at ATEC, plus our freelance staff. And so if one of us goes down, there isn't anybody to pick that up, you know. If I had to say, if somebody was like, please sum up the impact of the pandemic, I would say no. But
right. I was gonna say, I won't ask you that.
I would say that it's been extraordinarily challenging. We've taken a bunch of losses. We have connected more deeply to our community. We've made some really lasting partnerships, and we've learned a lot about how to look at what we're doing, why we're doing it, and who gets a say. And I wish that we could have experienced those results without the crisis that we've been through as a community. But if I have to cope by taking something worthwhile out of this horror, it's a worthy outcome to hold on to, I guess. And so I'm stunned that we've made it through. That's really true. And just to very briefly talk about the arts industry, a huge impact that's happened throughout the industry is small venues have closed. Small capacity venues have closed. And I think that that's something that we all understand and hear, like, oh, small places couldn't make it. But I want to like take a moment to potentially educate some of the listeners about what that means for the arts in our communities, and the way that a regenerative art community works. Medium capacity venues, which are about 2,500, to 5,000 seats. That's a mid-capacity venue, if you can believe it. A lot of them have been taken over by national corporations, or they're sponsored by by places like huge banks and stuff like that, which is great, because it provides these places, these bigger places where touring bands can come through and the community members can see folks like that. And those places can take losses in different areas because their funding is national. And so you can kind of spread it out, like it's the places that people might be familiar with that operate like that are like House of Blues, that kind of venue. Small capacity venues often are independent. We're talking 100 to 250 seats. Functionally, it's a tricky model to make money at, because either you have to have like a very high ticket price,
Right.
to pay, an artist and the venue, or you have a low ticket price and maybe you have a bar, maybe you have a bunch of shows. There's different ways to work that out. When the resources to keep mid-capacity places are there, and those are the places that survive, and our small capacity places shut down, what that means is that emerging artists, independent artists, local bands don't have a place to perform. It just means that, because they may not have a 2,500 person draw out of Boston. And a lot of those places, they don't even have local bands necessarily be openers, because tours are booked in packages. So if there's no place for newer artists to learn how to perform, to introduce themselves to what it's like to be in front of a live audience, to learn how to engage with booking folks and venue managers, to build a local following, they have to leave that community. There isn't a different option than that. You have to go to a place that can support that kind of creative growth.
Yeah.
And when you lose that local community of artists, you lose all of the innovation that comes along with that. And the arts are more than just important for our mental health and community well-being, which they are extremely important for. They're a tremendous economic driver.
Yep.
So when we lose those folks, we lose the housing, we lose the teaching, the jobs that come along with that. We lose people coming in and spending money at restaurants and shops and all of that stuff. We lose a lot. That's the industry if people are interested.
No, that's fascinating. I mean, it's sort of like you kind of know it intellectually if you're at all engaged, and if you've ever gone to a concert, you understand that. But you've explained it really in a great way, and hopefully people will get that and want to be a part of what you're doing. I think it is really vital, and I agree with you. We talk often about the creative economy, and you are, you embody that idea that you're this creative center that has an economic engine of its own, even though it's a small entity. So I mean, that's amazing. How can people get involved? I mean, other than obviously donating money, which I think would be helpful, but what are some other ways that would be the great way, but what are some other ways that people can be involved, and how do you engage the community, and how do you want to be engaging the community?
Yeah, I would say, of course, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't say, obviously your financial support and donations are what keep us sustained during this time. Yeah. But there are other vital ways to be involved. Some are really specific and some are general. So when we are having shows, which again, we have all of our open mics that are happening on Thursdays. We have a new collaboration with Center Music House open mic. That's the first Thursday of the month. We have our Jazz Jam and Show, also the second Thursday of the month, which has been running for many, many years. Our comedy open mic. All of our day of show staff are volunteers, our ushers, our tips certified bartenders, and our box office folks. So if people want to do those, you get to watch the show and learn how to do those skills. We are more than happy to accept anybody who wants to come and help in that project. Some other ways that people can help that are very specific is we have a Circus fundraiser coming up on June 10th.
Great.
The tickets are on sale now. This is an indoor-outdoor show. We have Circtacular from New York coming. There's going to be aerialists. There's a fire show finale. There's going to be entertainment only, fortune telling, wrong answers only. There's games to play. There's food, the whole thing. It's a vintage style, you know, old timey, weird circus. And if people want to come and see that, that'll be outside. There's also some upper ticket levels that have an additional show that's inside. That's a burlesque and circus show. I would love for everybody to go and check that out on our website, purchase your tickets early. That helps us with sponsorships. But we're set building for this. This is a huge production for us. And so if people are skilled or not yet skilled, we would love to have folks come and help us build the signs, build the fronts for all of our games. We're building out like a full 1800s looking outdoor bar. We have a bunch of coffee bags that need to be spray painted to say peanuts. We're having a backstage, front stage sort of, you know, circus wagon feel. Anybody who wants to do that, we have signups. You can get to it through our website. And we're doing a number of weekend days where people can come and join with that. We'll also need a bunch of help day of. And so if people want to volunteer for that, and then you get to go into the circus. And also, if anybody is interested in reaching out to me to be a part of our community listening sessions, that would be wonderful. I'm also literally set up in a tiny little living room thing in front of the firehouse every Tuesday afternoon from 2 to 4. You can literally just come by and talk to me on the couch. I'm just sitting. There's coffee, but I'm just sitting there capturing anybody that is walking by or that wants to talk to me. We really want to make sure that we reach people that aren't already connected to us. And so that's another really impactful way for folks to help and to help steer the direction we're going in. So if you've been in Framingham for 20 years, if you're new to Framingham, and something I hear a lot is people saying like, I feel like there must be something, but I just like don't know where to find it. That's a big thing that seems to happen. Like people feel like there must be some kind of community, there must be some creative things going on, but they just don't know where to find it. Please come to me. We'll make sure we create that together. So those are ways that people can be involved. And then if anybody has really specific skills, you know, always be happy to have grant writing help, would always be happy to have folks on our committees for a board. You don't have to commit to a full board membership, but we have a number of committees that would love to have people get to know us that way and contribute to.
That's excellent. No, that's perfect. It's so exciting. I love the idea of arts office hours. You just hang out, hang out in front and have people come in and say hi to you. So hopefully that message will get through to folks watching this. And then finally, I just want to wrap up and give you an opportunity to talk about the future of ATEC and where you're headed. And obviously you've talked about the strategic plan, but you know, what do you have any vision that you can share with us before, you know, right now, before that's completed, before that process is completed?
Yeah, I do. I think, well, I'll say two things. One is I get a crazy kitten that's freaking out over here, ruining my couch. But I'll say two things. You know, on the one hand, as we go through this process, I want to remain as absolutely open as possible because my personal goals and my expectations are not what I want to drive it, right? So I'm really leaving myself open to what new outcomes could be. But I can say that there are some things about the future of ATEC that I think will be non-negotiable. And I can see those emerging already. I think that our origin and our mission foundation as being a community-centered, community-generative art center is crucial to who we are and how we serve the community. And I think that implementing structurally the conduit for folks around us to tell us what they want to see, and then use our skills to help enact that is what it's going to look like. I think that that's true both for individual artists, for, you know, community members engaging and observing the arts, and for collaborative partners. You know, anything from the tendency we have without Metro West and that home collaboration, and creative collaborations like, you know, we have a Common Thread Theater Company as our theater in residence, and looking at those things as capacity multipliers instead of like a quid pro quo, quid pro quo. You know, instead of saying, okay, I can provide you this space and you do this thing, of really saying, here are individual gifts. What can we do together that multiplies those things for our surrounding communities? And that's true not only in Framingham, but I hope that that becomes even more true for the other arts organizations in the region. I think that resource and partnership will really be the driving values of our next chapters as an organization. What that looks like in terms of like what you would come to see, it'll be performing and visual arts. I mean, we're going to continue to do performing and visual arts. We're going to continue to provide a platform for emerging folks to learn their chops. We're going to continue to provide a platform for community members to access, you know, established talent. Like all of that's going to keep happening. And so functionally, you know, we'll be a venue. But the way we choose our program, who has a say and access, who feels like the space belongs to them, I think that is going to expand.
That's excellent. Yeah, I know. I'm so excited that you did survive the pandemic and that you guys are I think thriving despite it all. And I'm glad to hear that you're focusing on mission and just being a resource for the community is just so amazing. And I thank you so much for your time today. And I really look forward to sharing your voice and your story with the wider Choose Framingham audience. So I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having us. I really appreciate it.